Good evening, everyone. I'm Brian Allen. Tonight, a conversation with one of Washington's most experienced correspondents, ABC's Jonathan Karl, who covers the White House. Growing up, Karl spent some time in both Hill City and Keystone. I began by asking him about a report released last Friday by the U.S. House Intelligence Committee that finds there was no collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign in 2016.
The conclusion of the House Intelligence Committee is far from a surprise. That had been, as you well know, one of the most politicized committees in Congress, that investigation. Democrats and Republicans at loggerheads. The Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee had signaled that was the direction their report was going for some time. Obviously, the president has seized on that committee's report and claimed vindication.
I'm wondering, when you are in the press room and you're going around with Sarah Huckabee Sanders and you're asking questions and trying to get answers, do you feel you get real, truthful answers from this White House?
I think that it's the job of the White House correspondent, in a way, never to be fully satisfied with the answers you're getting from the official spokesperson at the White House. There's always a natural tension. We're pushing for more information. They're trying to provide information but spin it to make the president look in the best light. So you never leave a briefing saying, you know what? I asked the questions. I'm really satisfied. I believe they really straightened everything out. With this White House, that tension is more than we've seen in previous White Houses, because you've got a president that has essentially declared the press, in one case, the enemy of the people. And our job is to be non-biased, is to try to get the facts, try to ask the hard questions, try to press for more information. But, I'm not there to fight with the president or his press secretary. I'm there to try to get information and to present the facts to the best of my ability in an objective manner.
We saw a state visit just this week, Jonathan, from French President Emmanuel Macron. Does President Trump have an ally in the French president, or what is that relationship to your understanding?
There are some real differences. I mean, Macron came here with some real issues to deal with President Trump on. He does not want the United States to jeopardize the nuclear agreement with Iran. The clear differences on climate change and the Paris Climate Accords, which President Trump backed out of. Would like to see. In fact, he predicted the United States eventually would be back in that agreement at some point.
And the fact that Macron aired those differences during the joint session of Congress earlier this week, do you think that's him hoping that he can apply some political pressure on the president through the legislative branch? Or was he just saying, folks, this is how it is?
Well, I think that there was a little bit of that going on, but I think he was also, as the president of France, he's trying to make the point that there is a relationship here that is beyond the relationship between the two heads of state.
Within this last week, we saw a historic summit unfold between the leaders of North Korea and South Korea. Can the White House take credit for that?
I think that the White House can take some credit for that. The fact that Donald Trump went out there and really has taken a gamble by saying he's willing to meet with Kim Jong-un. I think that it definitely changed the dynamic. President Moon of South Korea was elected as somebody who wanted to engage with North Korea. So that was his platform. He wanted to do that. But having the United States willing to do what this president is willing to do, a face-to-face meeting, I think gave Moon more running room and really changed the dynamic. So, I wouldn't say this was all, this happened because of the United States or because of Donald Trump, but I think that in part what Donald Trump did and has done so far made it possible.
What do we think about the United States' role in the ongoing crisis in Syria?
Well, it was interesting that the president said that he wanted to get out of Syria, and he said that really within a week of then participating in airstrikes against Syrian chemical weapons facilities. The president has been quite consistent about one thing, which is he does not think the United States should be out solving other people's problems around the world.
The larger issue that I was thinking about is, does it send a mixed message when it comes to what is the United States' place in terms of foreign policy? Like you mentioned, you have a president that says, I want us out of Syria, and then just days later he engages in a missile strike in Syria. So which is it?
Well, it was a very stark contradiction coming from the President of the United States. It's not the first that we have seen from this president, and not the first we've seen on foreign policy. On one hand, his slogan is America First. That is obviously echoes the group that in the United States fought to keep the United States from getting involved in World War II. I mean, the ultimate isolationist. Mm-hmm. So he talks often like an isolationist, but on the other hand, he talks very tough about combating Iran and combating ISIS and eradicating America's enemies. So there is a fundamental contradiction there.
Is that going to be a challenge for Mike Pompeo on the world stage to convey to allies and enemies alike what the U.S. will and won't do?
I mean, Mike Pompeo's got a huge challenge on the world stage. You saw in the previous Secretary of State Tillerson was constantly being undermined by the White House. He was pursuing what he believed was U.S. policy, and then U.S. policy on a whim was changing.
ABC News White House correspondent Jonathan Karl joining us from the nation's capital. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next on This Week in Politics, just 2 more days until the Sioux Falls mayoral runoff election. Who will come out on top?